Hello, dear soul ones. Thanks for tuning in. So this is part 5 of the series of the Dark Night of the Soul. And in this video, I will be sharing my journey of my Dark Night of the Soul. So this will be kind of interesting for me to be sharing, as well as difficult most likely, or maybe not even difficult, but I think it'll be very healing for me to be sharing so publicly, which I haven't done before. Yeah, so let's get straight into it. My Dark Night of the Soul. First of all, it's definitely the hardest thing I've ever been through in my entire life, and I really thought I went through the hardest part of my life in my youth. I really thought, a few years back, that was it. I was done with that, and I was very wrong. So where did this all take place? In Northern California, in the summer of a few years ago, in Northern California. And something happened that was a catalyst for me. And after that, my mind wasn't working the same. I wasn't thinking the same. I was really paranoid. And it wasn't even that I was paranoid. I was just seeing behind the matrix and seeing both the matrix and the spiritual world, if you will, or the etheric world, the other side of things. And it was very confusing because I had no idea what I was going through. I was really very alone in it, and I just thought I was losing my mind, and my thoughts were weird, and I just thought, well, tomorrow I'll be fine, and I would sleep on it, and the next day it was the same, and I was really not present here in the ground on this earth. I was in this physical body, but I was out of it, and I was just seeing, so many different things, and it was just like a bad trip, like I took too many drugs or something, but I wasn't taking drugs. I haven't taken drugs for a very long time, and so it was really weird, and I just expected it the next day and the next day just to disappear, or that I'll be fine, that I'll be all right. And I knew I didn't eat anything weird. I knew, I was healthy. I wasn't going through any traumatic experiences or stresses in my life then. It just happened from day to night kind of thing, and it wouldn't go away. It wouldn't go away, and I told my dear friend at the time, I really don't know what's wrong, but I'm not okay in my head. I'm not, something happened when that catalyst moment happened, and I never came back from it. I'm still there, and he couldn't understand me. He was just like, just act normal, and he was a shaman too, so that's interesting. But just like, yeah, just act normal, you're losing it or whatever, and very like this. So that made me feel even more lonely, and it was really difficult. So in the end, I was working at a farm there, and in the end I decided to leave, and I left down to a small village, and I was really in my mind like, what should I do? I really don't know what to do with my head. I was like, okay, I got 3 options. I'm gonna just dump all my stuff at a secondhand store right now, just give all my stuff away at a thrift store, and then I'm gonna buy a ticket. I'm gonna go to Thailand, and I'm gonna lock myself up for a month and figure it out. A. B, leave all my stuff at a thrift store, or sell my stuff at the side of the road, and then I'm gonna put myself into a temple and just go into a meditation temple here in California or in Thailand and lock myself up, and then all will be well soon. And those were my 2 options I was thinking. And then the other option was or what do I do? Do I just check out of life, or what am I doing? And I think I spent about 5-6 hours in the car just contemplating what my next move was, and eventually I decided to call someone that I knew would have my best interests at heart if I wasn't thinking straight. my former lover, and so I called him, and he was very sweet. He could hear my voice that I wasn't well, and we went for dinner. And as we drove to dinner together, before we even arrived at the restaurant in the parking lot, I just started crying and crying and crying. I'm just saying, like, I don't really know what's going on, but I really don't feel well, and I don't feel right in my head, and I don't know what to do. And I told him what I was contemplating, what I wanted to do, and he just said, "Don't stop, don't worry." And then he was my blessing. He was sent by the angels in a way, because he said, "Look, just stay with me. Don't worry about anything. Just stay with me in my house. You have a safe place to go through whatever you're going through, and then we can figure it out later. And don't worry about, having work or having income or having all of these things. Just stay with me as long as you need to get out of this." And it felt right, He was so kind and so loving, and it was my savior. He was my savior right then and there. So soon after, I moved to his place, all of my stuff there. I wasn't, the more I was getting into the dark night of the soul, the more I couldn't do stuff, I couldn't really function, I couldn't really work. I had this thing like, oh, I need to work, I need to make money, because I really didn't have money. And but really what I needed to do was to surrender, but I wouldn't allow myself. So I tried to work, but I would notice that my mind wasn't right, and I would just get anxious and weird, and it wasn't right. So eventually, he had borrowed me some money. He said, "Look, here's some money. Don't worry about working. Just get better. Just be still." It's like, okay. But then I really dislike borrowing money or being in debt. I've never, I don't like ever even borrowing $2. Makes me feel guilty for half a day to borrow that. So so then I was all panicked that I borrowed, some money from him. It's like, oh, I gotta pay it back quick. I don't feel well. So that didn't work very well. And eventually I was getting deeper and deeper into the dark night of my soul. So I really couldn't talk to other people, period, because I would get very, I would see the other side, what's happening in the matrix and the other side of the matrix, and I just wasn't myself. I wasn't in a place to be talking to other people, especially people who don't have a spirit, who are not very inclined into my type of galactic world. They're more in the matrix, right? So that wouldn't be fruitful for either of us. So I stopped working, let go of that, stopped talking to people. I soon noticed that I couldn't do shopping, because when I went to the supermarket, they had the lights there and all the people, and it was really too much matrix, too many weird energies coming, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't go. So I realized I couldn't do shopping, and soon this lovely man, he did shopping and made sure there was food in the house. And then I regressed more and more, and I just ended up, spending my days inside, really in cave mode, and spending most of my days literally in bed. And I tried to figure things out, I was really struggling about surrendering. I had no idea what I was going through. I've never heard of the dark night of the soul. I had no idea what I was going through. I just knew that I wasn't right in the head, and I needed to do something about it. And so, I was trying to figure my life out, I was like, oh, I have to figure this out, and I've got to figure money out, and, I fucked up, and I'm a failure, and I'm not good, and I need to figure it out, and get a piece of paper. And every time I started thinking about those things, I got into an anxious mode. I got in overdrive. I couldn't function properly, and it got so bad that at some point I was just holding my breath. I wouldn't even breathe anymore. Like, I'd be like and then he would tell me breathe, and I'd be like I forget to breathe, because I was so anxious and fear, and all of these things were happening to me, and I didn't know what was happening to me, but all I could feel was my body wasn't right, and my head wasn't right, and my soul wasn't right, and I didn't know how to make it disappear, you know? I didn't know how to make it better, and yeah, it was really scary and hard, and eventually I was regressing even more. I couldn't even cook. I love to cook. I adore to cook. I'm really good at cooking, especially for many people. And I couldn't even, cook an egg anymore because I couldn't, figure out, well, first turn on the fire, then put the pan there, then, okay, use oil. And it was too much for my brain to be doing. I couldn't figure it out, so I was really eating, very simple food like milk and cereal, or I don't even remember what I was eating honestly, but just ready-made food, basically. And yeah, and that was hard. And of course, my dear, beautiful friend, he had a lot of love and compassion, and I'm so grateful for that. But of course, he didn't understand exactly what I was going through, and there's no way that I could even make him understand because I didn't understand what I was going through, and I could hardly even speak. I could hardly speak because every time I would say something, I felt like I couldn't express myself properly, and I didn't know how to express. And it was basically, going from a human adult to a little infant baby and not being able to do anything anymore. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. And just to take like a shower was like climbing up Mount Everest, and it was so difficult. And most of the time I spent in bed, just staring out into, on the physical plane, staring out into nothingness. But on multi-dimensional planes, I was going through my whole life, different lifetimes. I was going through everything that I thought I did wrong, or everything that I felt guilty about in life, or everything that I didn't forgive myself for, to the tiniest thing, like passing the salt in a wrong manner while I was talking to someone else. It could have been rude to someone, like ridiculous things that didn't even matter. But I was just so hard on myself for every little thing that I thought I did wrong, when in this reality and plane I didn't do anything wrong. But I was really deep in my psyche, and so I was like feeling horrible and guilt from my youth, and purging and crying and feeling like a failure and like a fuck up, and like I wasted my life because I used to party and do this and do that before, and what did I do, and all of these different things. And my ego, then I started feeling guilt and all of these things about my ego. And I went through every emotion that there is, and through every part of my psyche being that there is, and really tore everything apart. Every thought, every emotion, I tore myself apart into little pieces and threw them on the floor. I tore all my belief systems down. I tore all what I thought was true of this world or other worlds. I tore it all apart. I depicted it all in my mind every day. I just did the same thing every day, all night, all day, all night, all day. I couldn't even sleep in the first period. And I threw it all on the floor. I was a puddle of water. Literally, I was just like a puddle of water on the floor. And all that I ever knew was just spread around me, and and that was it. And I was nothing. I literally felt like nothing. I felt less than nothing. I just felt like nothing. And all these little truths that I thought were me were laying around me. And yeah, it was really difficult. And I stayed in that. That's, what in the other videos I talk about, the deep, darkest pit of Dark Night of the Soul. Well, that's where I was, and I was in that for a long time. And every day the same thing, and my mind and my adrenals were in overdrive, and there's nothing I could do. And everything that I did, I would feel guilty about, If I, didn't wash my dish, I would like cry about it and feel guilty about it. If I, felt like I ate the last cracker, and maybe he wanted the last cracker, but he didn't at all, but I thought it in my mind, and I feel guilty about it and cry about it, and just everything. It was really, really weird and scary, like observing myself in it, like fully aware, like, wow, you're just like a helpless baby right now, fully observing myself and being aware, and yet nothing I could do about it, absolutely nothing. And I felt so helpless and ashamed and guilty and so many other things, and scared. I really didn't think I was ever going to come back from that. I had no idea what was going on with me. And yeah, even during the time, my friend, he tried to give me Reiki, several times, and I couldn't have him give me Reiki. I literally would like suffocate when he gives me Reiki, because I couldn't accept the love. Reiki essentially is, a universal energy, unconditional love, and I couldn't accept the love he was sending into my body, because I was in the darkness of this dark night of the soul, and such self-loathing, that I couldn't accept this love that he was sending me, and I was just like, and I wouldn't be able to breathe. I'd be like, okay, get away from me. I couldn't receive any hugs or touch. It was very difficult for me. I couldn't sleep. I think I mentioned that. So yeah, as I was, really in this dark spot, eventually I was like, okay, well, we got to do something. And I started taking herbal medicine. So some herbs to just help me sleep at night, because all night I'd be awake and my brain would not stop. I just like on and on and on, right? And then I got also some calming herbs. So during the day I would take 3 times this calming herb, St. John's wort and some others, just to level me out and allow me to decompress and not be anxiety decompressing, but just really, okay, just do nothing. I can't work, I can't talk, I can't be social, I can't cook, I literally couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. Then I also connected with my father, a family member, and he, lives very in the matrix world. He doesn't have a spiritual bone in his body. So that's how I explain it. But yeah, he decided that it would be good for me maybe to see a psychiatrist, and so I did, because I wasn't in a good position to make any choices for myself. And that's why, I trusted my friend in California, and I said, he took my passport, or I gave him my passport, and we said, okay, he's going to decide when I'm a little bit better in my mind to make bigger life-changing decisions, like moving to a different country or going somewhere or seeing family or whatsoever. But right now, I'm not in a good place to make good decisions. It's no big decisions. I couldn't even make the small decisions. How dare I even try making the big ones? So he was my go-to person, I knew that he would only do what was best for me, and I could trust that. Even though that sometimes I may have doubted him because of what I was going through, but overall, my heart, of course, I trusted him with my life. And anyway, so I wasn't in a very good position to be very discerning. So my dad said, okay, yeah, you go to a psychiatrist and see what's up. And I went to this psychiatrist in this very small village, and he was very, very bad. Because I went there and he gave me some medication. I didn't really know what the medication was, but he said, look, I have some trial medication. Try this for a week and let me know how you feel. And then we go from there. And I took this random medication for a week, and then I couldn't reach him or call him. He wasn't available. Or I may have spoken to him, and then he said, yeah, keep on taking it, and then after a few days let me know again. And I couldn't reach him. He was just MIA. He wouldn't return my phone calls. He never checked in on me, how I was doing or not doing, and all of these different things. And so I was taking these pills, and I had no idea what I was really taking, because, you know, I was not in the right place. I was just like kind of zombieing in this plane, zombieing around. And it ended up being, I forget the name of this pill right now, but a very, very strong medication for schizophrenia. A very, very expensive one as well. Like, if I had to pay full price, luckily I got like a discount, it would have been like $1,000 a month. And I don't have schizophrenia. I never had schizophrenia, you know, but he just gave me these pills. And then he gave me lorazepam as well. And yeah, and as I was taking them, I felt immense guilt because I gotta pause. I just have someone delivering something at my house. Excuse me, I'm back. I just had my green juices delivered very cheaply. Green juices I'm taking for my pregnancy. So, where were we? Yes, puddle of mud on the floor, all that I knew on the floor, and I was given different medication, and then the psychiatrist disappeared on me. And so after a while I was feeling worse and worse and worse, and after the medication, after taking it, I was feeling worse and worse. I was feeling like even more out of my body, if that would ever even be possible. But I really felt like numb, totally, utterly numb, and my body started aching. My bones, like my whole chest started concaving like this, and my bones were hurting, and my chest was hurting, and my collarbone specifically was hurting a lot. And after a few weeks, I had found a 2.5-hour drive away, because we live in a very small village, to Santa Rosa. I found a really good psychiatrist who dealt with different issues, and I thought I might be in some type of psychosis. And he dealt specifically with psychosis as well. And he was really beautiful and sweet and very expensive, I must say, but it was totally worth it. So I went down there and I told him what happened and what I was taking, and he looked at me, and he was the funniest person, because he straight away said, "That's crazy that he gave you all of those medication and that amount and that type of medication." And it was so funny for him to use, you know, the crazy word in his office. And yeah, he told me, "I can see from here that you've been having an overdose of this medication. It's not good for you, and that's why I was concaved, and that's why I had pain over here. It was a side effect of this medication." And he also was like, "You shouldn't even be taking that medication. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have schizophrenia, or you don't need any of this stuff. That's not what's happening." And I was just, and I knew this, you know, on a soul level, I knew this, and I just burst out in tears and just like, "Thank you, just thank you. Like, I know, and thank you." And I was just so happy, because, you know, other people around me didn't know what I was going through. So yeah, they're just gonna say, "Yeah, just do what, pills will make it better," you know, something. But it really wasn't the answer. But I had to go through that. So he was really helpful, and he was just like, "Man, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You know, you have a very specific, different life. And so with great highs, you know, come great lows, and that's just what happened to you. And you went through a great low, and you're already coming out of it. This is as I was coming out of the lowest point of my dark night of the soul. You're about to go on a trip. In a few weeks I was leaving to Asia. You're about to go into a trip. You're going to feel so much better on this trip, and just getting back to yourself. So you're fine, but please stop taking all of this medication, like, per direct right now. And I want to see you when you come back." And yeah, so I left that office, and I was just crying with so much joy and relief and thankfulness. And all the songs on the radio were, of course, exact right. The following 3 songs were just very emotional and beautiful. And I was coming up, and that was just like, the songs on the radio, with what he was saying and what I was experiencing, was just affirmation of, "I'm okay now. I'm really okay. I'm still, shakingly going away from this experience, but I'm okay. I got my mind back. I'm coming back to myself, and I was coming out of that dip, and I was feeling stronger every day. At that time, I already started working again and socializing again, and going to public places and being able to do shopping. I was slowly, putting one foot forward at a time, and that felt really good. Yeah. Just when I came out of that darkest point, I also, my dear friend, he taught me 4 chords on the guitar. And so I just started learning guitar, and that was really helpful for my brain, and it was very soothing for my soul. And I wrote songs, which was really good for me to just release. We had a bunch of friends come over to help with some work, and they are all joyful Italians, so it was really nice to be around their joyful energy, And I was crawling back out of this, really crazy and dark experience that still, at that moment, I had no idea what I went through. I had no idea. And later I saw one of my dear friends who is also a holistic healer, and she was like, yeah, I felt you, and I knew there's nothing I can do for you because you were in a thing. You were going through a great initiation and a great purging, and all I could do is send love because that was something you were going through, and there's nothing anyone could have done. And it truly was. There was nothing that anyone could say or do for me because I needed to go through that, and I needed to, fall to my knees into a puddle of mud, and I needed to be the one to crawl out of that, And I did crawl out of it. I did, and then soon after that, I left to, what did I first do? I went to Thailand and started to connect to the conscious community there and stuff like that, which was really awesome, and just reconnecting with tribe and people. And then soon after, I left a month to India, to Rishikesh, and did my yoga teacher training, which was very awesome for me, especially that month of just training. I did about 4 hours to 5 hours of yoga a day, and then we did meditation, and we had classes, and we ate, regularly, and every day we had a program, and the people were so nice, and it was the perfect kind of rhythm back to myself, having this schedule with my personal practices in the morning, and then all the practice that came, is basically from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. We were busy the whole day. So that was really, really good. And by the time I got back, I felt stronger than ever. I got back to the States after that, and I really felt like myself, but even better. I felt strong. I was still coming back from this huge experience, but with more understanding from where I was. And at that moment, even, this is now, 2-3 months later, I was feeling stronger, but I still had kind of shame what happened, like, oh, that really, experience I had, let's just throw that in the cupboard behind me for a little while, because that was like pretty fucking freaky. And yeah, so I was enjoying my new energy, my new inspiration, and getting myself out there, and I didn't really want to look at that too much because I wanted to walk away from it, which was absolutely fine and good for that moment. But at some point I had to really, look back and really depict it with new eyes, but I wasn't with fresh eyes yet. So I think only a year after the Dark Night of My Soul, did I really come out and speak the whole story to some people. One person I spoke to for the first time, which was really weird and scary, and I was tears, and when I spoke the whole story, he even said, like, you look sick while you're saying it, and I turned white and I turned sick and all of these things, but it felt good to get it out. And then soon after, I told another friend, and he had gone through a similar experience, also a very crazy experience that he shared with me, and that was really helpful. And that was really when the dark night of the soul closes, you know, because it started at one point, and the real closure is when you can fully accept and embrace it and share it proudly, like I am now, you know, with no shame or guilt or, you know, self-judgment about it. So yeah, it was a pretty wild ride. So that's about it. I mean, I could go on in all the little details, but it doesn't really matter. All that matters is what I went through during that time was worth lifetimes. Like, I feel like I went through 20 lifetimes of purging, of letting go, and then of coming back to myself stronger than ever. It was truly initiation, and it was truly the most hardest but the most beautiful thing I've ever gone through, and I'm so thankful for it. I'm so thankful, because if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be here right now sharing this with you or sharing anything that I'm doing right now, because I needed to go through that to fully more connect to who I am right now, right here, as I am every day more and more so, as we all are. And so yeah, I have like I said, I would do it again like this in a heartbeat, because it gave me so many fruits, an unbelievable, infinite amount of fruits, and connected me to my abilities, to my truth, to my real truth, to my higher sources, and released doubt, fear, all of these things. So if you are in one, a dark night of your soul, you know, there's fruits at the end of this, and if you have gone through one, I hope you can be proud of it and give it a place. And if you haven't gone through one, perhaps you don't ever have to, and that's fine, and perhaps you will, and then you may know what it is, which may be helpful, because I had no idea what I was going through until later, and you know, that also has a reason. So I could share it right now, so I could go through the depths of it. And so the reason I'm sharing all of this in this video series right now is because I feel that a second wave of us will be going through a dark night of the soul, but a very shortened version, a more shorter version for most, maybe just a month or some weeks. My whole experience was probably, you know, time was very vague then, but I think a 3 months experience from going in the depths and coming out, and then, you know, some months of turbulence walking away from it, of course. Yeah, but I've also seen people, you know, go through a very, very long one because they were resisting and not letting go, and, you know, a year. So my intention is just to share this in case it could be fruitful for others. So thank you for receiving me, thank you for listening, and much love to you. Have a beautiful day.